It doesn't matter how much information that you accumulate. If you don't know how to treat people, therefore your behavior towards other people, it really doesn't matter how much you know. Because tonight, all I saw was a whole bunch of brothers going back and forth with information, and it was a whole bunch of, you might as well say, chaos. It was very chaotic, and I was hearing a whole lot of the same things that I've been hearing. Well, the letter J is wasn't alive, wasn't known at the time when this person was born, and his real name is this. This means this means that. Information. Now, all of this information is supposed to be so divine. Oh, this person was black. The Israelites are black people. We are the lost tribes of Israel. Blah, blah. How do you treat them? You have all of this information, and you're in here debating this limited information, and the next thing you know, nigga is in the air, and motherfucker, and all of this, but everybody got these little things on, walking around looking like Power Rangers, or looking like borderline Rastafarians or Arabs. And all of this information is going around. And everybody's claiming to be of the lost tribe of Israel, when all of this dialogue is only revealing that you're all lost, because you don't know how to talk to one another. You don't know how to treat one another. I keep trying to tell people, it does not matter how much information you accumulate. It doesn't matter how much you can break this down, and you can tell people what this means, and his real name is this, and this means this, and that means that, and he's from this tribe, and this tribe is like this, and this area is like that. But you don't know how to treat one another. When religion or the Bible or whatever you want to call it is information that is supposed to imbue within the human being of how to treat one another. in attending a second meeting with the Israelites tonight. The video that I made last night, I talked to them about their treatment towards one another. It also talking about their language, considering where they're supposed to be in terms of the internal, based upon divinity. Of course, I got verbally attacked, which is nothing new to me. I'm always being verbally attacked. I'm always being attacked in a whole lot of different manners when I'm always speaking about being exactly what you say you believe. I've been going through that all of my life. This is not a man that's sitting up so-called feeling sorry for himself. I'm just telling you about my personal experience through, you might as well say, the world of different ministries and their beliefs. If you're going to say that you represent something divine, I expect from you divine behavior, not only towards me, but at least towards those who assert that they are on the same level as you are as Israelite brothers. I would expect at least some common respect for your brothers. However, we come in contact with a whole lot of people that say that they live a certain way based upon certain divine principles. In 2019, I met a woman named Salam Yilma, and she lived in Atlanta, Georgia. And we talked on the phone for a very good amount of time. And she had a beautiful mind, But once I relocated, I gave up everything and I relocated out there, she had this picture on the wall that I displayed in the previous opening of this video, the 42 principles of Mat'at. And every single one of those principles, I read every single one of those principles, and considering her behavior and her thinking pattern and her lifestyle, she didn't fulfill any of those, not one. Even though her language said one thing, her behavior towards me and other people in whom she came in contact with was very much in opposition of those 42 principles of Ma'at. That's if I'm saying that correctly. I didn't see any divine demonstration. She was one of the most cruel human beings that I ever met in my life. Now, most people may say, well, you're attacking her because things didn't work out. No, I'm not doing that at all. I'm not doing that at all. My whole thing is, if you're going to say that you represent something in terms of divine behavior, be that word that you've submitted yourself to must be made flesh in your principles of action towards other people, even towards people who don't have a tendency of having those same belief systems. Now, when I was out there, everything that I saw was in opposition of what those principles of Ma'at. The reason why those other pictures were up of the heater, I had mentioned in another video that after her and I broke up, I was living in an area to where it used to be a patio, and therefore it didn't have any heating vents out there. I was living there away from her while she lived upstairs and she was doing her little thing with, with her little boyfriends and everything. However, the reason why that device was over her heater, as she invited this older man who she felt that she had to tell me before I moved out there that she was totally disgusted with this man. However, after we broke up, she had him come over there and put that plastic lock over the thermostat, because at that current time it was very cold in Georgia. And so she, when I was in the restroom, she went in that area and she removed a heater that she had said was hers, because she knew that at that time it was like between 30, 38 and 42 degrees out there in Atlanta. And that particular area where I was, I say again, was a patio area that didn't have any vents to heat that particular area. And so she did that to prevent me from getting up, or in terms of turning the heat on, that I may not freeze. So she had this man who she said she was so disgusted with come over there and put that over the thermostat so that I won't be able to adjust the heat to prevent myself from damn near freezing to death. The refrigerator, she emptied out the refrigerator and she took all the food upstairs with her, because she was trying to freeze me out and she was trying to starve me out, because she knew that I didn't have any funds in order to supply myself with food, because the moving company that I was working for refused to pay its workers. And so she knew that I wasn't able to buy any food for myself. So her implication was to freeze me out and starve me out. Now, this was a woman who tells people, I send you beams of light and love and harmony. And, she's one of these energy people, positive energy. And she's with the 42 principles of Ma'at and all of that. Propaganda. I bring all of this up is because the most cruel people that you will ever find in your life are the ones who say that they live by these divine principles of action. They talk a good talk. It's good dialogue. They can articulate it and they can sound poetic in the way that they express it and the way that they display it to other people. However, internally, there's some very evil and there's some very cruel people in terms of the way that they treat other human beings. When no matter if you are a Christian or the so-called conscious person or an Israelite or whatever the case may be, a Muslim, whatever the case may be, as I said before, if you do not know how to treat other human beings, what you say you believe means nothing. Because if you don't take action based upon those principles that you claim to live by, then it means nothing. So it doesn't matter how much you say you follow Ma'at or the teachings of Muhammad, peace be upon him, or the teachings of Christ, or whether you are one of the Israelites from the tribes of Israel and all of this. You have all of this information that a lot of people accumulate. However, they don't know how to treat one another. Now, when I was in Georgia, if it was one group of people that showed me some, you might as well temporary love and respect and concern, was the community that the majority of the people of the world are dead set against, and that is the Jehovah's Witness community. This guy named Richard, who was her next door neighbor, who opened up his heart to me and he opened up his ears to me to try to get a basic understanding of what was going on between her and I. And through his conversation and me explaining to him exactly what went down between her, I noticed the wisdom that this brother had. And he did not immediately tell me that he was a Jehovah's Witness. He said, "I'm a Jehovah's Witness, by the way," because I asked him, I'm like, "Where are you?" I said, "You have a very profound and beautiful understanding of things." And so that's when he opened up and he had told me that he was Jehovah's Witness. So him and I became friends. He didn't invite me to the Kingdom Hall. He never invited me. I just felt like, wow, if the Kingdom Hall produces men like this, maybe I should look into it. So I believe it was the third conversation that him and I had. And I asked him, I said, "You say you are a Jehovah's Witness?" And he said, "Yes." And I told him, I said, "The next time you go, would you mind me going with you?" And he said, "Yeah, you can." Now, most people may say, well, he mentioned that to plant a seed in you, and so it was a form of manipulation. No, it was not, because I asked him. There's something that I noticed about this man. I saw his lifestyle. I saw the way that he carried himself. I saw the way that he spoke. This man, Richard, was a Jehovah's Witness manifesting. And so through him, I started going to the Kingdom Hall, and I met some very beautiful people who lived what they said they believed. Now, these are the people that are always being attacked by the world. They're always being attacked by the world. However, when I was out there suffering in Atlanta, Georgia, it was the Jehovah's Witness community that helped me get through a whole lot of things. A whole lot of things. Now, there was an older gentleman out there named Charles who put forth a very strong effort to see that I was okay. It was because of him that made it possible for me to be able to move out of where I was in terms of Salam Yilma and her cruelty, because it was getting very much out of control. You know, she was bringing guys out, you know, to flaunt in my face. She would leave and stay gone all night, and then she would come home in the morning with these guys. "42 principles of my life," right? The queen, the positive energy, and the high vibrations, and all of that madness, because that's all it is. It's just words. It's just words. Because if those words and if those principles don't become flesh, it means absolutely nothing. I could care less what you say you believe. It's not about what you say you believe, is how you treat other human beings. So we're talking about principles of action. Action. You have to allow those words and those principles to become flesh in you, and you must manifest these principles of action to where you are a manifestation of those divine principles. because you are acting out these things. And after you get to a certain point to where you don't have any sense of internal premeditation to act these things out, those principles, divine principles, become an instinctive act upon the human being, to where these things are not premeditated because of your belief system. Those divine principles are one with you and you with those divine principles. This is what it means when Yeshua said, I come not to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. He said to fulfill it means to become one with the divine principles of action that these laws are fixated upon, to the point to where it is instinctive now, and therefore I am a manifestation of divinity, to the point to where I am no longer up under the law, because I am in a state of divine holiness, to the point to where I am not under the law, because there is no conflict inside of me having to submit to any form of divine instruction, if this is understood. So the word became flesh and dwelled among men, which means he was the seed of David according to the flesh, but declared himself the Son of God according to the Spirit of holiness. The man walked in the Spirit. So when you're in the Spirit, you're no longer under the law. You're no longer under the commandments. The Creator doesn't have to command you to do anything, because you are divine. See, the Israelites, they're always talking about the law. You have to stay obedient to the law, which does not imply that you're holy. And this is the reason why you guys go after one another, and there's always this information that you're trying to see who knows this information better than the next. And this is where you get the debates from. We're going to get together and we're going to have a debate, because you have a whole bunch of intellectual vanity going on. This information and these principles are not for the sake of debate. They are for the sake, they are for the sake of dying to the self, to the degree that you are you become a manifestation of these divine principles of action. But what's going on in the world is that a lot of people, they want to accumulate all of this information, and they want to say, oh, well, this person was black, that person was black, when all of these people who you study about never mention race. I recall in 1996, I forget what magazine it was, but it was titled, Was Jesus Black? And it had a picture of the face of Teddy Pendergrass on it, and it had a what you call those that thorn crown on him, and it had his hair long. I'm sitting there reading this article, and it said that more black people are starting to give their lives to Christ on the perception that Jesus was a black. And therefore, there's a lot of idolatry going on. Now, if the color of a man's skin, it is that alone is going to encourage you to give your life to Christ, that's an oxymoron if I've ever heard one. Because if you study his life, he never claimed to be any race. He never claimed to be any nationality. He never claimed to be a part of any religious or political party. He was a man who walked in the Spirit of God, and that's it. He said, my kingdom is not of this world. And everything that I hear the Israelite community talking, the Christian community talking, a lot of these sects of religion, they are always dealing with race. And this person was black, and that person was black, and we're the lost tribe of Israel. Well, if black people are the lost tribe of Israel, and if black people know this, then why are you so degenerate? If you are a holy people, then why are you so unholy today? And how are you going to get the message that you are a holy people when from these Israelites, if they spend the majority of their time attacking one another because they have no love and no respect for one another based upon divine principles of behavior? How are black people going to know this if this is in fact relevant? When it all boils down to it, righteousness is a choice for the individual, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with the color of a man's skin, whether he's black, white, or whatever. It doesn't matter. This is the reason why you never will find in any version of the Bible of Yeshua mentioning him being a part of any race or culture of people, because it was not his concern. That's the concern of the world. This is the reason why he said, my kingdom is not of this world. So how is it that you can say you are following behind this 42 principles of Ma'at, and you're such a very cruel and loose and perverse and cold-hearted and callous human being of a woman? How can you, as an Israelite, attack your brother and call him out his name? You calling him nigger and MF this and F that, and you're all sitting at this big round table, and you all got Bibles sitting before you that condemns this behavior and those words that are coming out of your mouth. Obviously, information does not imbue within the human being divine behavior. It does not. Righteousness and divine behavior starts with the choice of the human being dying to his current self and her current self, and having the will to go through the process of dying for the sake of being born again into the Spirit. That's what it's about. It's not a thing of let's all get this information so that we can all meet up and we can debate with one another. And as long as we're all on the same page, you're my brother and you're my sister. You know how many people that I've come in contact with that mentality? That's a sick mentality. It's a hypocritical mentality. And it's a very cruel mentality. And this is why the Creator told them to stay away from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which I believe is just religion. because religion deals with knowledge based upon what is considered good and evil. And the Creator said, you will die surely if you give way into this information. And look at the world today. Look at us today. Look at what I went through in Georgia. It didn't even have to end that way. We could have just both went our separate ways. She didn't really have to do all that she did and still claim to be a follower of this 42 principles of Ma'at. She didn't have to be that way because I never mistreated her. I didn't do anything but love that woman. That's all I did. And even after I got out and I got back home, I sent her an email and told her that I was okay and I would like to resolve our differences because I felt like she was we gained a very powerful friendship and I wanted my friend back. You know, just because you would make it as a couple, I felt as though I had a very beautiful friendship with her because I felt that she had a beautiful mind, but she was just a temptress and a seductress. And she was able to take information and accumulate it, and she would be able to articulate it in a manner to where it was borderline poetic. And she would do that for the sake of seduction, to get you up under her spell so that she could eventually use you. And then once she found out that she wasn't able to use me because she had rushed the whole situation and I was having some problems out here, I went out there with the belief that we were going to grow together. However, when I bumped into a whole lot of problems with the moving company who didn't want to pay me or the rest of the workers, that all of a sudden became my fault. And when I relocated from the city of Las Vegas to Georgia, to where Georgia has an economic system to where when they look at your resume, if you don't have any experience in working with Georgia, this prejudice mentality comes about and they look at you as non-Georgian. And so what they do, if they don't see that you have any experience on your resume in terms of working out there in Georgia, they're not going to hire you. They're not going to hire you. So I was faced with those things, and she knew that I was faced with those things. And Miss 42 Principles of Ma'at didn't care. She didn't care. She listened to her ex-boyfriend Eric in terms of me because he was jealous when I showed up, and so he helped destroy that. And she spent the whole day with him, giving him some "I'm sorry" pussy for like 5 or 6 hours. And then when all of this was done, and he helped her destroy her future with me, he left her alone and went off and married him an Asian woman. Until this day, he's with this Asian woman. Why am I bringing that up? It's because if you say that you believe in these certain divine principles of Ma'at or whatever you say you are, and you meet a man who is a good man and he respects your belief and he is willing to be taught your angle of belief system, and you to decide to give it a shot, that's the man who you need to be listening to, not your ex, because he's your ex for a reason. But the purpose of this video is to say If you are studying any area of information that is considered to have within it some divine instruction, allow that instruction to affect your being to the point to where you become a manifestation of what you claim you've given your life to. But the only thing that I've ever experienced is a whole bunch of people who said that they were this and they were that, and their behavior towards humanity was in opposition to what they said that they believed. The whole thing is, and you should question yourself. This is not me questioning you. I'm just throwing this question out for you to question yourself. Is what information you've given yourself to, does that create any type of divine instruction within you to display before the world? Does information imbue divinity in your behavior towards humanity? Because if it doesn't, what are you reading? What are you studying? Obviously, it is the fact that righteous behavior depends upon the individual. You are either a righteous person or you're not. So if you are thinking that you're a righteous person and you taking all of this information in, if you're not demonstrating that based upon what you say you believe, then you need to wake up, because you're not a righteous person. You are not as righteous as you think you are, because obviously you're not paying attention to your behavior towards humanity. So ask yourself, am I a righteous human being or not? Ask yourself. Ask yourself. You don't have anything to prove to anyone. Observe yourself, and you make up your own mind what and who you are. This is kind of a follow-up video of the one that I made earlier about information. There's a portion in there when I had explained my friendship with the Jehovah's Witness community while I was in Atlanta. And one of the words that I utilized in that video, which I forgot to tap into, I used the word temporary friendship with the Jehovah's Witness. And I miss it. And I had mentioned the older gentleman named Charles. Now, when I talk about different sections of religion and religious groups, if it's one thing that they all have in common, is that they, even though they assert to say that they communicate with people outside of their sect, if you pay close attention to a lot of these religious institutions and these religious groups, as long as you're in association with them, then they're friendly to you. I bring that up because when I was out in Georgia, the older gentleman named Charles, he had made arrangements for me to get out of Salam Yima's home. As I said before, it had gotten very much out of control, and she was doing a lot of things all in my face that were very hostile. And I could tell that she was trying to provoke me, which implied that she didn't know me that well, because I'm not the type of man to provoke. Because let me just say this, I'm just not the type of man you would like to provoke. Period. And I'm not going to get into that. But Charles had made it possible for me to get out of there. As a matter of fact, when I sent that picture to Brother Richard of the refrigerator being empty, he had called me. He said, "Come over here and get something to eat." And then when him and I set up and we talked, and I told him everything that was going on over there with her. And he was saying, "You don't even treat a dog like that." He said, he said, "I've been knowing Salam, it's going on 13 years. And he said, I never knew that she was like this." Well, different circumstances bring out different things in people, and that's just a fact of life. However, I understand exactly what he was saying, considering the image that she portrays. She portrays herself to be this divine and righteous person. However, there were a couple of times where he had told me that him and his ex-wife were looking at her from time to time, and she looked like she was doing drugs, and she was doing drugs when I was out there. I'm going somewhere with this. This is not to beat up on her. And so obviously Richard had called Charles. Charles had called me, and he was saying, "Look," he said, "I'm working on a house out here right now." And when he mentioned that, I figured, I'll just do some work with Charles and make a little money. And so when I asked him, I said, "Do you need some help?" He said, "Oh, no. He said, I'm just, what I want to do, I want to come by there and give you some money so that you can so you can eat, which was very beautiful to me. I mean, that was very beautiful. He didn't have to do that, you know, but he did it. And so when he drove up and he blew his when he blew his horn, I walked outside and he was still sitting in his truck. And so when I walked up to the truck, I figured he was going to give me like 20 or 40 bucks. But Charles gave me $100 bill and he said, spend this wisely. You know, he said, because considering your situation, he said, I don't plan on you being here for too long. He said, so spend it wisely. And at that time, I really wasn't certain on what he meant when he told me that you won't be here long. So I started a job not too far from the from where we was living. It was just a couple of blocks up. I managed to get a job at Popeyes chicken out there, and I was a dishwasher and a part-time cook there. But I was primarily a dishwasher because I have very good cleaning skills on you know, from working in the casinos in a whole lot of departments like the porter department and primarily in the stewarding department, where I was very well skilled in cleaning restaurants and grills and stuff like that. So once they saw that I was very good at cleaning, they asked me would I be interested in being a full-time dishwasher and keeping everything clean, and I told them yes, because the kitchen was a bit chaotic because a whole lot of people in the kitchen didn't get along. So there was a woman there who was working at the drive-through window. This very, very beautiful, gorgeous sister named Kathy. And so my first 2 days there, me and Kathy would always cut our eyes at one another, and I would be out in the lobby talking to some people, and I would kind of gaze over at her, and she would be standing there staring at me like this. And so I would be back in the kitchen, you know, doing my job, and I'd be back there washing dishes and stuff like that. So Kathy would sometimes come back there, and she would, like, you know, try to strike up a conversation, you know, with me. And she was one of these conscious people, you know. So she said, you know, I feel like I know you from somewhere, probably like in another life or something like that. And I said to myself, here we go. And so at that time, I was willing, or I found myself entertaining a whole lot of things that I would normally entertain. And so this was a very humbling experience for me. And I say that in a very good way. I say that in a very good way. And so she, on my second day there, she just came back here, you know, back in the back kitchen. And she said, hold your hand out. And I held my hand out, and she put her number in my hand. And she said, I expect you to use this. And so I told her, I will. Now, my thinking process at the moment, considering everything that I was going through with Salam, I said, okay, this may lead to something. You just never know. This could lead to something. And so, because as far as I'm concerned, all of these things are transpiring for a reason. There's a reasoning behind every experience, everything. I don't care, because you're a part of the life journey. And so you're going through these things, you know. And so the the first week there, Brother Charles had asked me on the phone. He said, "Have you started working at Popeyes?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've been there for like 3 days so far." He said, "Okay, I'm going to try to work something out for you as far as getting out of there." He said, "Because considering my conversing with Brother Richard," he said, "you really need to get out of there." He said, "You shouldn't be there." And so um, Brother Charles had called me. He said, "Hey, I talked to a woman at your job. She says that she has an extra room open." He said she has like a 5-bedroom home. And he says she's a real nice looking sister. And he said she works right there along with you. She said that she spoke to you. I said, "What's her name?" He said her name is Kathy. So I paused. I said, "Kathy." I said, "Hold on for a minute." And I reached in my pocket and I pulled out her number, and it was Kathy, and it had her number. I said, "Hold on for a minute." I asked Brother Charles, I said, "Do you have her number?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "So hold on for a second. Is her number this?" I mentioned her number. He said, "Yeah." He said, "You know her. He said, "How did you get her number?" I said, "She gave me her number." He said, "Well, this works out." He said, he said, "Just get your stuff together, and I'm going to come by and pick you up," because Salam had gave me a 30-day notice. You know, mind you, I moved to Atlanta, but that part was considered Lithonia, Georgia, at the time when I moved. I moved out there for us to be a couple, and she ended up putting me in the friend zone and made me attendant to her establishment out there, her condominium where she was renting rooms. And so I'm going somewhere with all this, so just follow me. And so when the very day that my 30 days was up, Charles came and he picked me up and he drove me to Kathy's house. And so as I was coming in, she was in her living room, and our eyes met again. And I said, "Oh, okay." She said, "Yeah." She said, "Yeah, you here now." And so that just so happened to be her birthday. So after she took me upstairs and showed me where I was going to be sleeping and everything, the room. She said, "Well, today's my birthday." She said, "So I ordered a cake, so let's go get, my cake and everything." So all of that transpired, and I was in because of Brother Charles and his efforts, I was able to get out of Salam Yuma's home. So whenever I was needed anything like a winter coat, because it started getting real cold out there, Brother Charles would give me whatever I needed. He would give me whatever I needed. But as time went on, I ended up having to get out of there, because Kathy wanted a relationship with me and she wanted more kids. And there was a a European guy staying there who had a crush on her, and so he stirred up a whole bunch of jealousy and he stirred up a whole bunch of chaos and turned her against me. So I had to get out of there. I eventually had to get out of there, and so I ended up staying with another Jehovah's Witness brother under the name of Joseph, and Brother Charles worked that out for me. And so I ended up staying there, and Joseph was a drug user. He was an alcoholic, and I think that he was gay or borderline gay or both ways. One way or the other. It was a very unpleasant place to live. He was very rude. You know, he expected me to work and take care of his 4 dogs while he was out of town. I would it was just crazy. I don't need to go into detail with all of that because I'm trying to lead this to make a point. So when I decided, I said, okay, Joseph came back in town. Now, mind you, he had 4 dogs. I would work close to 11-hour days at Popeyes because I was a closer. And so by the time I got home to his place, his dogs had peed all over the place. It was a mess. And so he comes back in town, and I would try my best to clean up as much as I could, along with getting off work between 3:15 and 3:30 in the morning. So I get home 3:30 one night. Joseph is back in town, and he's having a fit because his 4 dogs were not attended to for 9 to 10 hours. Why is that? Because I was at work. I'm trying to make a living here, you know. So he was in there raising hell and talking about, I can't take this. I'm giving you 30 days to leave. Okay. Between Salon and her madness, Kathy, and that situation there, Joseph and his situation there, the moving company that I worked for, I was trying to get my $1,753 out of them, but they went out of business, and I couldn't find these guys anywhere to talk to them to see if there was any way that I can get my money back. I mean, to get my money from them. It was just so much going on. Joseph was being so disrespectful, and he was doing drugs, and he was doing all kind of weird things like knocking on my door at night while I'm in there trying to sleep. Or one time he had company, and I was trying to avoid him. And so due to the fact that I would get off at 3:15 to 3:30 in the morning while everyone was asleep, he had a very quiet washing machine. And so I went downstairs. His guest door was closed. I put my my clothes in the washing machine so that I could have a clean uniform. I come back upstairs. He knocks on my door. He said, "Are you cleaning clothes?" And I'm like, "Yeah." You know, he said, "Don't you know I got company?" I'm like, "Yes. I'm trying to clean my uniform." He said, "You don't wash no clothes?" And this was a very quiet washing machine. And I'm like, you serious? What does he do? He goes downstairs. He unplugs the washing machine while my clothes were washing. So I had to humble myself. I had to accept this. I laid down, went to sleep. I woke up early in the morning. I went downstairs. I find out he unplugged the washing machine. His guest saw me doing that, and they said, "Oh, how you doing? How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm fine." I plug the washing machine back in. I go upstairs. Of course, I get through, drying, washing my clothes and drying my clothes. And so, but this happened before he gave me the 30-day notice. So I'm just explaining all of the disrespect that I had to suffer out there in the ATL, this place that a whole lot of y'all hype up is just full of a bunch of demons and lowlives. Shady niggas, that's what I say you are. But the whole thing was, all of that was fine until I mentioned to Richard, I'm saying, you know what, Rich? I've had enough of Atlanta. I've had enough of Atlanta, and I'm just gonna go home. I'm just gonna go home. And Richard was he was going through something very traumatic because during that time, him and his wife decided to divorce. And so he was going through his thing. So I backed off Richard because I didn't want to mix my burdens on with his. And so there was another brother out there who's a barber, and very beautiful and nice brother who treated me out to lunch. And so very nice brother. But when it was mentioned that I had made up my mind that I wasn't no longer going to stay, all of a sudden I noticed no more phone calls from Charles. Everyone started acting distant. Because if Brother David is not going to be a brother inside of Jehovah's Witness because he's in the process of getting out of Atlanta and he's going back home, we have to cut our ties with him. And so I took you through all of that to explain to you that there's always an ulterior motive behind what people do. And I've always felt that Charles did all of these things for me only because in his mind, he's going to eventually become a Jehovah's Witness and he's going to be up under my wing. And so I noticed the phone calls stopped coming. I know that a lot of people were up under Joseph's influence because I was telling them about Joseph. He was doing drugs. I just let them know that's one of the reasons why, I've decided I've gone through enough out here in Atlanta. I just felt like, okay, I can't seem to get my feet planted in Atlanta, so obviously the Creator doesn't want me here. I need to go back home to Las Vegas. I need to get back to my sons and get back to my life. And so that's why I left and I came back here to Las Vegas because Las Vegas is my home. But my whole thing with this is these different religious sects, they have their limitations. With all of this divine information that everyone accumulates, you are humane as long as you think that these people are going to eventually jump on board with you. But at the same time, a lot of these religious institutions are not humane whatsoever because they do certain things with an ulterior motive behind it. And as long as you are doing something with an ulterior motive behind it, then you're not doing it in holiness. You're not doing it in holiness. So what is the point of accumulating all of this information if this is how you view humanity? You know, this person was good as long as I thought that they were going to join on with us, you know? And so everything was fine until I decided to go home. So my point with all of this, even though I dragged you guys through a whole lot of this, the whole thing is, if you're going to be righteous, if you're going to be good for the sake of goodness. If you're going to help someone, help them as a witness of Jehovah, not with the intention on thinking that I'm in the process of recruiting this person to be a Jehovah's Witness as myself. And as soon as I can perceive that that's not going to happen, I'm not calling them no more. See, and this goes on not only in the Jehovah's Witness, this goes on in a whole lot of areas of the religious world, including the Nation of Islam. I've been through that with the Nation of Islam. So I've been through a lot and I've learned a lot. So when it comes to religion, all of this information that you accumulate, it doesn't mean anything if you are not doing good for the sake of goodness. It doesn't mean anything if you don't know how to treat human beings. You should do good for goodness sake, for the sake of goodness. Do it because it's right. Just do it because it's right. And that's what righteousness is. It's being able to go into any area or any sect of people and demonstrate righteousness with them, and not to reject them because they're Muslims, not to reject them because they're Israelites or Jehovah's Witnesses or anything like that. But these different religious sects, you're either going to jump on board with this one or that one. And if this one or that one can't serve ownership to you, they reject you. They reject you. So what is it about these religious institutions that don't like people who have free minds? Do good for the sake of goodness. That's the point. So does information imbue divinity in the human being? Obviously, it does not. So righteousness is a choice. So Brother Charles tapped into doing the right thing for me while I was out there, only because his ulterior motive was to recruit me into being a Jehovah's Witness. And so all of this kindness and all of this support that they accumulated, it was all because they thought that I was going to be a Jehovah's Witness. I didn't get a chance. I wanted to see Richard before I left. I wanted to see Charles before I left. And I didn't get a chance to see anyone. It was Joseph was the one who drove me to the airport, and I really didn't want him to even drive me to the airport. I put everything in my suitcase, and I was getting ready to walk across the street and jump on that bus and take that bus all the way to Atlanta's airport. Get on that plane and come back here. Do good for goodness sake. That's what it's about. It's about being a human being. And as Yeshua said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. So goodness is supposed to sprout from your heart, not from a mind that has a religious constitution in it, which has limitations on how to treat a human being based upon your ulterior motives towards him or your influence on him to join your particular religious sect. That's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. So with all of that being said, I'm going to, I guess, cut this short. This is almost 50 minutes, but the whole thing is information alone does not imbue divinity inside of the human being. What needs to be remembered is divinity is already inside the human being. It's like Yeshua said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. It is within you. Divinity is present. You know, that's why he said, be ye therefore perfect as your Father in heaven is also perfect. But we seem to have lost that with the formation of various religious institutions on this planet. And everyone has submitted to those constitutions of knowledge, and they have entered them and have become a product of these different religions. And it doesn't do anything but separate everyone into these little logical compartments. And in between all of those logical compartments is division and therefore chaos. And that is the biggest and most violent blow against humanity. And it shatters humanity into all of these little fragments. And this is where we are today. This is where we are today. Stay human.